Hello everyone! Today I have the pleasure of interviewing the latest sensation in the prog rock genre, Arcana. Joining me today I have the mastermind behind the band, my good friend Rogan McAndrews. Not only did he write this album, he also recorded most of the instruments. Also joining us today is the man with more rhythm than a washing machine with an unbalanced load. I'm talking Arcana drummer Deyson Thiara. Deyson is a master mixer and mixing masterer, playing a huge role in getting that smooth sound on the album you love so much. Gentlemen, how are you feeling today?
I'm pretty good.
Feeling great.
That's awesome. Okay, now I have some questions for you about your latest album, and I also have questions about what the process of releasing an album during quarantine was like. So I think I'll just get into it with what I think is on the top of everyone's minds. Rogan, are you single?
Currently, yes. Wow, you really sprung that on us.
Deyson, are you single?
I'm married to the art of making music. She is all I need.
I'm married too. I thought I'd shake you guys up a bit to get us rolling.
That was pretty good.
Okay, but for real, my actual first question is, what has the process of releasing an album during quarantine been like? Rogan, if you could answer first.
It's definitely a lot different. Like, yeah, where most bands would go out and do like a live album release party or something, and like get out there, get boots on the ground. It's definitely a little different. You have to work a lot more online and reach out that way and think a lot more strategically about that. Having help on social media has been a big game changer, because I'm not tech savvy at all when it comes to DAWs and making music and stuff, maybe, but yeah, definitely not in the social media realm. So yeah, that help is much appreciated.
If you could see how much my Discord is lagging right now, you wouldn't think I was tech savvy either, but I'm glad I've been able to help you with that. So, on that note, you said that you've been using other strategies in order to release this album during quarantine. Can you speak a little bit more about some of the strategies you've been using?
Oh, well, definitely, it's kind of it's a strategy of more is more. I guess that I use pretty frequently. I'm like on most platforms, going through DistroKid for all the music. I've been working with Asher Media Relations, John Asher, and he's been promoting it all over North America and a little over in Europe. So that's been exciting. But then also I'm just beginning to set up for Twitch and Discord and getting those chat and video communities going. So hopefully there will be a lot more ways to connect and interact.
Yeah, that's awesome. It looks like your Discord community is going to be a great place to hang out. So for anybody watching, look for the Discord link. Deyson, can you speak at all to what releasing an album during quarantine has been like?
I mean, Rogan's really been doing all the stuff related to the actual release. I suppose if it wasn't quarantine, we probably would have played a release show and I would have been more involved in the performing aspect of things. But I don't know. I mean, I'm hoping that the online reception is good, because people are listening to music now more than they were before, because we're all locked at home and we need a soundtrack for staying at home. So yeah, I'm hoping people come across this and resonate with it, and I hope we can still have a really successful release, even given the circumstances.
Well, I for one think it's a great soundtrack for being stuck at home, so
Thank you.
Okay, on to my next question. It's what equipment did you use to pull this off? Obviously, you guys both had very different roles in creating this album, so I was wondering if you could each speak a little bit about what you used, starting with you, Deyson, this time.
Sure. So you can kind of see it behind me a little bit. I record all of my drums from my home studio. At the time, I would have had a pretty basic setup with just my interface was a Focusrite Scarlett 18920, and I also had a Behringer 8200 to give me 8 more mic preamps on top of that. And we put lots of mics around the kit, like 2 mics on the kick drum, 2 mics on the snare drum, a mic on each tom, mics on the ride and the hi-hat cymbals, overhead mics to get the overall picture of the kit, a few mics around the room. So that was kind of what the drums looked like. In our video where we talk more about the actual mix and production, we can get more into the nerdy recording stuff.
The nitty-gritty.
I counted at least 16 mics.
I think we...
Is that
12
true?
to 14, if I remember correctly. Somewhere in that range.
That's a lot of mics.
Drums definitely need a lot of mics to... It's basically like a bunch of instruments kind of mishmashed together, so you kind of need to be able to I guess, have control over the sound of each individual instrument that makes up a drum kit.
It's like when you clap in front of a phone mic and you get that staticky sound, but on a very large scale, right?
Exactly.
You gotta avoid it. And Rogan, could you talk a little bit about what equipment you used to pull off recording this album?
All right. Well, yeah, at the time, I was just working off of a tiny little Focusrite Scarlett 2Y4, which I believe you now have. I passed it on.
That I do.
And just sitting on my tabletop. And other than that, I have most of the recording I did was on this Ibanez right here. It's a Ibanez 7421, I believe, RGD series, and I had a Fender. A Fender Deluxe Stratocaster made in Mexico, and then for bass, it was all pretty much this Warwick Corvette 6-string. And other than that, it's all kind of digital. I work mostly digital to keep the studio clean and compact. And
Well, say what you will about Rogan, he's got a great taste in musical instruments. My next question talks more about the software that went into mixing the album. I was wondering if you guys could speak to which piece of software has been your favorite and why, and Rogan, we'll start with you this time.
Ooh. Well, I would say at the time of recording that album, it's definitely the Native Instruments Symphony series string ensemble. I used that a whole lot. And I used a bit of their brass ensemble, part of the same series, for recording a lot of the orchestration for the album. And yeah, it's like very intuitive interface and it's very clear sound. I believe Deyson said that he didn't do a whole lot in terms of like tweaking on those. It just kind of slapped them in there.
Yeah, I don't think I EQ'd them at all. Kind of just faders up and it's like, all right, it's done.
Gotta love that. I guess that segues nicely into you, Deyson. Which piece of software has been your favorite to work with and why?
I mean, I work in Studio One for all my mixing. It's a newer DAW, and I don't know, it works great for me. Really intuitive, really fast workflow. That's how I describe it compared to anything else I've tried. It's just a lot faster. Everything that I want to do is usually only 1 or 2 clicks away, so when you're mixing big projects like this, being able to set up your template and your buses really quickly is honestly, like, it's really valuable. So yeah, I've been enjoying working in Studio One a lot for sure.
Have you learned all the hotkeys?
I've learned the ones I use a lot. I probably should know more of them given how many hours I've logged in Studio One. But like I said, I only need to click like 1 or 2 times to do most things, so there hasn't been a huge incentive for learning and memorizing all the hotkeys.
Oh, there's so many.
Oh, that sounds like a beautiful user interface.
Yeah, definitely is.
I
Go
love
check
it
out
when you
Studio
don't
One.
need to know the hotkeys because
Go check out Studio One. It's Black Friday right now. I bet it's on sale if you're looking for a DAW.
And there you have it. My next question is a little bit more negative. It's which software has been your least favorite to work with and why? Deyson, if you could answer this one first, please.
Sure. I mean, I can't really think of any software that it annoyed me to use or that I wasn't happy to use. Really fortunate to have a good arsenal of tools over here. And pretty much every day working digitally, I'm just thankful that I'm not putting up with all the stress that comes along with like recording to tape or working fully analog where you have to have, someone calibrate your tape machine frequently.
Get the scissors out.
Yeah, every time you want to make a comp, you have to like do it live, and if you want to splice takes together, you're using scissors and tape, and I don't know, like I never have to worry about channels on a console dying. As cool as a console would be, I love how simple this digital workflow is for me.
It's not often that I think about where the terms cut and paste came from, but I guess today is one of those days. I guess you probably consider yourself pretty lucky then. Okay,
Definitely.
Moving on to the second section of my interview. I have a few questions for the creative process behind making this album for you specifically, Rogan. So Deyson, you get a nice little break here. Grab some water. I'm gonna interview Rogan for a minute. Rogan, your album focuses on telling a story. Would you be able to summarize that story for anybody who's unfamiliar with it?
Okay, so the Letters from a Lost Soul, Act 1, is very much like a very small piece, like smack dab at the very beginning of a larger sort of narrative work. It's going to act as sort of Letters from a Lost Soul as a whole is going to be about 3 acts, and it is acting sort of as a prologue to the next one, the next full act, which is the next set of arcs, and that is going to be like the main body of the story. But this is setting up a lot of the character development and the emotions that are going to be displayed throughout the entirety of the series. And so for that, I wanted this like short introduction in this EP to be sort of an overture to not necessarily a lot of the melodic themes that you're going to hear, but a lot of the like emotional depth and the character stories beginning and where they got to where they are. So it very much deals with human psyche and but also like sci-fi and mythological themes.
I imagine it like the Lord of the Rings of albums. Would you say that's accurate?
Yeah, there's gonna be about 9, so maybe Star Wars.
Lord of the Rings Extended Edition.
Yes.
Oh my god. That's a long story, but
Oh,
I'm so excited for the progression of not just the story that you tell, but the quality of work that you'll put out, because I know you're constantly striving to improve. My next question for you, Rogan, is what was the inspiration for the main characters of the story? Does it stem from something personal that happened to you, or did you just compile a bunch of stuff from media, or tell me a little bit about the inspiration?
So, yeah, not necessarily from my own experience. I find a lot of depth in like analyzing like human characteristics, but also like including like more of those mythological and sci-fi elements from like media, as I stated in the last question. I would say a lot more than specific characters and like actual people. I base the characters more off of those emotions. So like Damian deals a lot with his anxieties around being away from his wife and child for work and for long periods of times, and we'll see Hope displays like signs of like more of a sort of depression, along with like some of those anxieties, and it definitely, them playing off of each other is a large part of what is developing them into the next arc.
And anyone who's struggled with their mental health, like me, knows that anxiety and depression go hand in hand, making for a great story. Thanks, Deyson. My next question is, what was the inspiration for this story? You talked a little bit about this, but I don't know if you have anything more to add on that front.
Yeah, so definitely like I enjoy a lot of like fantasy and some sci-fi films. So like a lot of the base for the I guess the narrative arc comes from stuff like Interstellar and a little bit of Space Odyssey, and flicks like that, and then more studying opera as well, and the literature that comes along with that, because a lot of that's based off of mythology or poetry, and taking from that literature and putting it in this opera context that is more along the rock lines. So very much taking from those like early forms of like opera through the Romantic period, and taking that to a modern context.
On that note, do you have any fantastical or sci-fi TV shows or operas that are your favorite or you could recommend to any listeners?
Oh man, Wagner's The Ring Cycle is always a good one. I think I've watched that several times. Like Gute Dämmerung. That's got some good action in it. The Met does a really good production of that with like a crazy like 100-ton set piece that they drag in just for that. Along the lines of like sci-fi TV shows, trying to think of what inspired me. I think mostly just Interstellar and a little bit of Space Odyssey and stuff like that. I don't know if I was... Yeah, like I don't watch too much TV, and I don't think I was at that point either, so I don't know if I can draw anything from that.
I'll have to check out some of those operas you were talking about.
Oh, it's set aside
I
like
understand.
12 hours. It's a big one,
Maybe
the Ring Cycle.
a few hours over the course of several months.
Yes.
My next question, I understand you bring together a lot of sounds and inspiration for a musical medley, making a marvelous melody, but who was your number one musical influence for this EP?
Oh, that's gotta be Rush. Rush has been a huge part of my life for a very long time, and they were all sort of role models for me, like even outside of music, just how they acted and stuff. But I could narrow it down even to a specific album that really inspired this EP in particular, and that is 1985's Power Windows, because I feel like that they really came into their own in sort of that like synthesizer electronic 80s period, and there's a certain power behind that, where they found like a blend between guitars and synths, and it's a very interesting and powerful and emotional album.
And I believe you even have some Rush tattoos if you wanted
yes.
to show them off.
Oh man, I don't know if I could. I keep wearing sweaters for these. So there's one right here. I have there's my Starman. I have a larger one that's on my right bicep here, but I don't think I could show that without taking my shirt off.
Ooh.
Ooh.
Just keep your shirt on.
Yes.
Nobody needs that. My next question, if you could walk us through your creative process a little bit, starting from all the way before you had the idea to your finished product, that would be awesome.
Okay. Yeah, I might call on Deyson for a little help on this one.
Definitely.
Yeah, he's got the DAW open with one of the tracks that really showcases that well. So this is Octo Sun / Wings reprised, and it's the final track on the EP and comes in like just under 10 minutes. It's like 9:50 or something. But yeah, a lot of the times what I do is I start with one sort of bass melody that's more like rhythmic. I don't consider myself like a lead guitarist at all. I like to like focus around one simplistic idea a lot of the times and then like build off of that in layering rather than like really fast technical work. I like to put the technical. Oh yeah.
Sorry, I was just gonna say, do you think that you're more of you like to focus more on rhythm because you started out on bass, or is there another reason why you prefer rhythm?
I didn't start off on bass. I started off on classical guitar, which is like a very like technical solo instrument. But then I moved to electric guitar and then bass right after it. But I think just that sort of mindset and the music that I grew up with, with Russian stuff, like they don't put a huge emphasis on leads. And then as my musical tastes developed further, I got more into bands like Leprous and that type of music where it's not necessarily like lead guitar focus, but they put a lot of their creative energy into making complex rhythms and shapes and building it that way. So you can kind of hear that in this one if we can play a little bit. So you can hear the guitar melody underneath that is just that like sort of triplet feel there. So that's the main idea I built everything off of, and then I build and build and build more tracks on top of that. So I think next came the Synth Hits, and they kind of they add some depth to them and a little bit of like that rhythmic aspect, and then they throw off the beat a little bit. They don't quite land on the second measure, so it's all about like subdividing over either like one measure or several measures to make it so that you really have to catch where that beat is going. But you have that solid base that you can still sort of flow along that idea too.
You say the Synth Hits?
Yes. So
is it this one? Nope, that's a pad.
No, yeah.
Those are both pads. Where do those come in? Here we go.
Ah, there, yeah.
So many tracks in this session.
Yes.
How many tracks?
Yeah, there it is, crossing over the bar line.
Yeah. So the beat one is in that large space there that you can see,
Here,
but you can't.
The muted guitars and this. Yeah, it kind of like skips a beat there and goes onto the offbeat.
Yeah, and the bass follows that too. And yeah, so and you can see with like what did we have there? We had like a little over 70.
Let's see.
Total tracks.
Total tracks. This would include all the buses and stuff I made. 67.
Ooh, yeah. So that definitely attests to like the layering that I do and like to have there. And yeah, like right at the end, I think most of those tracks are playing. I've got like all the strings, several synths, like a lot of guitars.
There's a lot of stuff at the end.
Yeah, so it all kind of conglomerates over this 10-minute track into something that is just becomes huge at the very end before like dying off.
That's a lot of tracks.
Yeah.
Not possible on tape.
No.
This is clearly a product of being able to work digitally.
Yes.
What a time to be alive. You'll hear me saying that often, and it's just so true. What a time to be alive. Moving on, Rogan, from your section to Dayson's section. So Rogan, you can take this opportunity to grab some water, have a little break. I'm going to question Deyson for a little bit. Deyson, my first question for you is, what has working with Rogan been like?
Oh, it's been a blast. I mean, we've known each other since high school, and we were friends before we started working on the Arcana material together. And yeah, you know, our musical tastes line up a lot, so it's always really fun to be involved in the kind of music that you listen to. So, I mean, there isn't like an oversaturation of progressive rock bands where we are, so anytime I get to work on a progressive rock project, that's always really fun. And yeah, Rogan's a really fun and easy person to work with, so it's just been a blast.
Do you do a lot of other projects on stuff that isn't progressive rock?
I mean, I would say the scene that I'm most in is kind of more straightforward rock or alternative rock. My own music is often more on the progressive side, but quite often when I'm working on someone else's stuff, it is usually not proggy. It's more on the lines of like just good old straight rock and roll, or like alternative rock, stuff like that.
We do live in a very alt-rock area of Canada.
Yeah, we do. Which is, I mean, I like alt-rock too. I get excited about that for different reasons, but there's a special place in my heart for prog.
You could say that again. My next question for you is, what made you decide to join this project?
I mean, Rogan reached out saying that he needed someone to do drums and production, and yeah, it was like, it's a prog album. I get to play drums, and I also get to mix stuff. So it's kind of all the things I like doing rolled up into one neat little package. It was kind of an automatic yes, to be honest.
Oh, I'm glad you did say yes, because you guys put out some amazing work.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
Next question for you. Oh. Just blow through the compliment and start the next question without giving you guys a chance to respond. I'll keep doing that. My next question is, what was your first instrument, and how old were you when you started playing the drums?
I think the first instrument I picked up was like a clarinet when I was in grade 6, around there. But the first instrument I picked up that I really enjoyed playing was guitar when I was 11. And then, yeah, I picked up bass when I was 13. I think I picked up drums when I was 14. And now it's been about 10 years playing drums.
It's a long time to play the drums for.
Man, there's like 7-year-olds who can play better than me. It's wild. It's a pretty crazy time to be alive. But yeah, definitely enjoy playing drums. Brings me a lot of joy. But I definitely feel like I started late.
How do you stay motivated when you see a 7-year-old who's better at playing the drums than you?
I don't know, I get excited when I see 7-year-olds who can play better than me. I mean, to be fair, I don't know if that's necessarily the highest bar to pass, because I don't consider myself the most technical drummer. But I'm like, you go, you 7-year-olds. Like, I'm just excited to see how good they're going to be when they're like my age.
That's such a wholesome answer. Gotta love those prodigies. Okay, my last question for you in this section is, what is your all-time favorite album?
All-time favorite album? I mean, if it's the album that I've been listening to the longest and like still stays in rotation, it's definitely the self-titled Billy Talent album, because I started listening to that regularly like in middle school, and I still listen to it on a fairly frequent basis. Close runner-up might be Altered State by Tesseract. I've definitely been listening to that album for a really long time too, and it's up there in my favorites.
It's a good album.
It's a fantastic album.
That's a great album. Rogan, do you have a Tesseract tattoo?
No, I don't.
Not yet?
No, not yet.
It's such a tattooable album, though.
Yeah, I don't think it came in, like, I don't know. It didn't fit into the design that I did for my most recent ones. So, like, maybe sometime in the future.
Do you plan to be covered head to toe in tattoos?
Not head to toe. We'll stick with, like, I don't know, an artistic amount.
A tasteful amount
Wrist
of
to
tattoos.
shoulder?
Yeah, maybe.
On to the next section, though. Looks like we still have some time left in our little interview here, so these questions will be for both of you, and we'll again alternate between who answers first. So, Deyson, I just asked you about your favorite album. So, Rogan, could you tell me about your top 5 albums of all time? And are they the ones tattooed on you, or are those different albums than your top 5?
Oh, man. I think, so a lot of what I have tattooed on me are specific bands that have meant a lot to me, like especially in my development as a musician. But yeah, definitely like some that are on there are included in those top 5 favorite albums. Like, yeah, I mentioned Rush. Like Power Windows is like such a fantastic, just sort of I don't know, it felt like they were coming to that all throughout the late 70s and the 80s, and I really enjoy, again, the power and the emotion behind like almost every song in that album. I would say another big one is Caligula's Horse's newest release, Rise Radiant, which has only been out since like April, and I've already probably listened to it more than I have like any album in the last 5 years. So
Yeah,
it's definitely gotten a lot of play.
I believe Caligula's Horse won an award this year for that album, is that right?
Did they? I'm not sure.
I just saw something about it recently, so
Well deserved if they did.
I could be wrong.
Yeah. Oh, but like, yeah, the production on that and everything, like the guitars, and Jim Gray is just like a phenomenal like lyricist and vocalist, and it's yeah, he's definitely like up there in my top 3. I would say that's only 2. Riverside's Love, Fear, and the Time Machine is a great one. That's my like chill vibes album. I'd like play that whenever I take like a Vancouver trip through the mountains for like 12 hours. And I'm gonna say Lepros's Melina album is really good. That I drew a lot of inspiration from that for more of the like rhythmic technical stuff in my own playing, and I try to work with like all those sort of polyrhythms and weird subdivisions of the bar and stuff that they do, so they are a giant inspiration. Last album, man, I'd have to say, it switches, like my favorite albums switch around so much. I've been really into the Deer Hunters Act 4 recently, and that kind of plays along the lines of that like sort of rock opera theme. where it's telling a story over like multiple albums, and there's a lot of like really interesting themes that they draw on, and I think it's set in like the late 1800s. And definitely a very interesting album, both musically and narratively.
Yes, I love The Deer Hunter. That's such a good album. So, Deyson, same question to you. Now that you've had a little bit more time to think about it, what are your top 5 favorite albums of all time?
I mean, I've already got 2. I've got the Billy Talent self-titled. I've got Altered State by Tesseract. Vector by Haken. Every single Haken album is just top notch, but I think Vector is the one that I've listened to the most. Hand Cannot Erase by Steven Wilson. Really love that album.
Yes.
Really emotionally like gripping album. Really cool instrumentation. Really kind of different production than you're used to hearing on a modern record. It's like very dynamic and uncompressed. Like it's just very natural sounding. And then last one would probably be, I think Sound Awake by Carnival is definitely a big album in terms of how much it's influenced me as a producer and as a drummer. Just a really cool, groovy album, and the production sounds really big, but also really natural, and it breathes a lot.
Man, you guys sure have great taste in music there. My next question, starting with you, Deyson, will be, what do you enjoy most about being an artist?
I think what I enjoy most is just that sense of community and kind of how you're connecting to yourself to a lot of other people by making music and putting it out there. You're kind of in this joint effort with all the other artists out there who are also making stuff. I definitely want to raise other people up, and you've also got this community of people who are listening to your music, and you're also connected to the artists that you listen to the most as well. So it's just like it's a big community. Pretty much everyone, at least that I've met, listens to music to some capacity. So it's just another way for you to connect with other people and say something that hopefully resonates with people.
That's such a wholesome answer. I really like that. Rogan, I don't know if you're going to be able to top that, but what do you enjoy the most about being an artist?
Oh man, I think definitely sort of that emotional connection that you can make to people. Like music is something that is very sort of vulnerable from the artist's side. Like you're putting out sort of whatever you think and feel onto like this audio medium that's like easy to access, and you're hoping people will like connect with that on some basis, and by connecting with that, they're connecting with you and what you feel and what you think. So like that is sort of a large portion of my mindset on that, and that is a major reason why I sort of want to surround myself with a diverse crowd too, is to sort of get all those different perspectives and make something that I can connect to on many levels, and that others can connect to on those levels as well.
You guys are all just feeling the community and connection over here. I really like that. My next question, and Rogan, it's going to be up to you to answer this first, is I guess this is along the same lines about what you enjoy most about being the artist, but what drew you to the music industry?
I would say definitely a lot along the same lines as that last question. Beyond that, I would say probably just like being able to express myself creatively like that. Like I don't know if I would ever survive in an office job where I have to sit at a desk all day. Well, I guess I'm doing that as a music producer anyways, but but at least then I'm putting something that's like very much a part of me into that sort of work. And yeah, again, the connections that we make, like Deyson said, make that a very beneficial.
It's funny, I got into marketing for a lot of the same reasons. Deyson, what drew you to the music industry?
I mean, I think I'm the kind of person who needs goals, like constant goals, things to work towards, and being able to work with a big variety of like people's artistic visions or my own artistic visions definitely satisfies that for me. There's like always something to keep me up at night thinking about, but in a good way. I'll be working on stuff all day and I'll be like unable to fall asleep because, man, I could do this to make it sound like this, and I bet the artist would really like it if I tried this random technical nonsense in my mix. So it's just something that keeps me excited all the time. It always gives me something to work towards. And yeah, I'm addicted to it now. It definitely gives a lot of meaning to my life to be working with a lot of different people and to be, having them trust me with their artistic vision and to kind of achieve that, to create something physical that you can listen to that originally was just an idea in someone's head.
You got any tips for the boys and girls at home who aren't being kept up at night in a good way?
I mean, just do lots of stuff. I mean, the only way you can really find what really gets you going is by trying stuff.
Just dip your fingers in multiple pies and
yeah, and eventually you'll find the pie that keeps you up at night. But in a good way. Like, I didn't sleep last night because I had all these cool, exciting things I was thinking about, and I couldn't wait for it to be morning again so I could keep doing it. Once you find something that makes it feel that way, just chase it.
You could print that on a t-shirt, stick your fingers in multiple pies until you put your finger in the pie that keeps you up at night in a good way.
Yeah, can we print that for first Arcana merch?
Oh my god. Real talk though, it is really cool that you can take an idea that somebody has in their head and get it out in a format that everybody can enjoy. I think that's super cool. Again, what a time to be alive. So, next question, and Deyson, I'm going to ask you this one first, is what are your musical plans for the next year or so?
Musical plans for the next year. Right now, working on the next Arcana release. I still have a little bit of drums to record for that, so I'm going to be learning, practicing, recording some more drum parts, and then the mixing process for the next release as well. I'm sure will take up a chunk of my time. And then might get some of my own music out there, and kind of have to see. I'd love to have people back in my studio again. It's been real quiet around here with, the global pandemic going on, so if I can have artists back here in person, that would be lovely. And if not, I don't know, I'll keep finding stuff to work on.
I wonder if there's any way the listeners could get a little sneak peek of your guys' next album. I hear about your Twitch and Discord. Is that a place where people could look for new, fresh cuts?
Yeah, that's definitely along the lines of what I was gonna say. Is we're about 2/3 done the drums for the next album, and that means that I've started working on the very beginnings of my end of that. I've worked on a bit of programming the synths for a couple tracks on my own, and now I'm going to be streaming on Twitch and Discord for the recording of the next album starting this Sunday, which is the 29th, I believe. And yeah, I'm gonna try and stream every Sunday about 10 a.m. Mountain Standard Time. And yeah, other than that, I guess I'm working on a rearrangement of the entire first EP for string quartet, trumpet, bari sax, and 3 voices. So that'll be a different take on sort of the music that I've already released, and that will hopefully be coming out very end of this year or very beginning of next year. Oh, and then hopefully the
Awesome.
next album is sometime at the end of next summer.
I'm looking forward to the next album. I can't believe it's already almost the end of November. You said that the 29th was this Sunday, and I had a little bit of an existential crisis.
Oh, believe me, I know that all too well with school. It's all kind of creeping up.
That's actually a question I have for you, Rogan, is how have you been managing being a full-time student, having a job, and recording and releasing an album all at the same time?
Ooh. Well, I definitely have one of those like multi-track minds where it's like easier for me to keep multiple things going at once than to like sit there with nothing to do. Like normally if I have like a free day, I'm like out trying to do something or like writing music or getting a head start on papers or whatever. So I very much I have I don't know, I don't want to say weird sense of like organization about my schedule, but I'm like very down to the T with like everything is placed somewhat easily and efficiently across my entire schedule.
Well, if you won't call yourself weird, I will. On a similar vein, Deyson, do you have anything else going on right now? Or are you doing mixing as a full-time gig?
No, I mean, I have a day job, but leaves me enough time to spend my evenings and weekends doing mixing. Yeah, I mean, who knows what the future holds, but pretty happy where what I'm doing right now. I feel like I have plenty of time to mix. I don't know if mixing 12 hours straight is really it stops sounding fun at that point. I like that I can work on things a couple hours a day right now, and I basically always have fresh ears, fresh perspective. I never like hit the point where my ears aren't fresh and I'm starting to make some questionable mix decisions, but I keep going anyways. Definitely like that I can pace myself with my current schedule.
I do graphic design, and I've definitely been there where I've been staring at a project for too long and then start to make things that just look wrong. So it's nice that you're able to find some separation with that. Do you mind me asking what you do for a day job?
No, I'm a corporate accountant.
I took accounting for a bit. I dropped out to go into marketing.
I mean, I can see that. You have to really like looking at numbers a lot and memorizing rules if you want to go into the accounting line of work.
It was the rules that got me.
Right? It's not just math. It's like
Yeah.
certain things have to be reported a certain way. It's more rules than it is math. Math can be done by Excel.
The rules and the ratios. Yeah, like they give you fancy calculators for doing the math, but remembering how and when to do it, that's the hard part. But we're not here to talk about accounting.
No.
I'm gonna move to our next question, which is obviously in our current situation, you can't do any tours or gigs, but do you guys plan to tour this particular EP or any future EPs when it's safer to do so? Rogan, if you could answer first.
I think, yeah, definitely, like, we had plans to, like, get some gigging done before we even released the album. Like, we had, like, started assembling a little bit of a group. And then, yeah, that was thrown to the wayside with the pandemic. But, yeah, like, definitely, like, I'd love to call on some people and do some more gigging and like, sort of stretch the bounds of the city a little bit at some point, and I think that would be that would be real fun. We have plans currently. I don't know if we're gonna see if Deyson has time to do this, but we're doing an online gig based out of Toronto for like a big online prog video gig. And so I'm going to start recording video for that pretty soon. And I think that's happening sometime end of February.
Cool. How are you going to pull that off?
Oh, well, I'm probably going to use something similar to what is going to be on my my Twitch stream setup, except for it'll mostly just be like camera rather than showing my DAW and everything. But I will probably, I'll do some setting up for that, some automated like effect switches and stuff through that, and then do some live playthroughs on Twitch that will be recorded, and then I'll put them all together through that. But yeah, I'm gonna try and do the entire album through almost live, and if that doesn't work, I'll just do like track by track.
Sweet. That'll be amazing. I'm looking forward to seeing that. Deyson, when and if Rogan does tour this EP or future EPs, would you go with him as a drummer?
And I suppose it depends where I am in my life at that point, but definitely would love to be involved in spreading some of this music around and kind of experience it from a live perspective, because the majority of the times I've played this, it's kind of been in a studio situation by myself, kind of no audience. I think there's a lot of energy that you can get from playing in front of an audience as well, that it would be great to kind of put this music into that context too.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to see this album live, and I'm sure tons of other people would as well. My next question is, do you guys have a favorite track on the album? Deyson, can you answer first?
Yeah, I mean, I think Tailwind would be my favorite. It was kind of really intuitive to put together. I think it was the one that I had the most fun playing the drums on. It just kind of seemed to fall right into where I sit stylistically as a drummer. And yeah, it's catchy. It's definitely the song I had stuck in my head the most when we were working on this. Sweet.
I really like Tailwind too. And what about you, Rogan? What's your favorite song?
Oh yeah,
from the EP?
I would have to say Tailwind as well. It was something that just kind of like came together for me in that. Like I definitely want, I always for all the albums that I have written here, I always try to put sort of a more like contemporary, sort of poppy, catchy piece in there, and this one just sort of like came out that way, and then I'm like, oh, that works. But yeah, like I like it because it still has that complexity behind it. Like there's that subdivision of beats over 2 bars, like at different rhythmic intervals. But it's still within that 4/4 time frame, so it's got that like that pop sort of feel. And yeah, like I'm Deyson pretty much recorded this in like one take, so
yeah,
there was like some
wow, really?
a little bit, yeah.
One take?
That might be an exaggeration. It might have been more than one take.
we went through and pretty much got it in one take, and then I think you had to just go back and clean up like one section or something.
Could be. It wasn't my first take then, I don't think. It must have been my second take, and then I went back and maybe cleaned up something afterwards. You might remember better than I do, actually.
Yeah. Well, I don't mean in terms of like, I think we probably stopped a couple times, but like you tracked this all the way through pretty much.
I'll take your word for it, man. I actually don't remember it as clearly. It's kind of all of a blur. But I'll take it as a compliment if I did it that quickly.
I guess that's a nice segue into my next question, actually, which is, Rogan, why did you choose Stayson as your drummer for this album?
Oh, man. Well, yeah, like, as we said before, like, we had that connection that was back in high school, like, probably, it was probably a good 3 years, no, like 4 or 5 years probably before we started, I started this project that we met.
Yeah, I think so.
And yeah, so I already had that connection with him, and I think it's like really important to have that sort of connection with the musicians and have somebody who's of like mind and like taste and stuff. And I think that's especially important when it comes to a producer. So it's great that I have that in Deyson sort of like all bundled up in one package, because like a huge part of a band's sound is like the consistency in a mix, and if you have that production value that's good right from the start, and you can develop that with that person or across multiple albums and keep that consistency, then I think that is one of the most important things you can do as an artist.
Well, again, I sure am glad that the two of you decided to work together on this. My next question is, I know that your album came from a point of talking about like anxiety and depression. I know you said that was more drawn from media and not really in personal experiences, but I was wondering if either of you have ever dealt with performance anxiety or anxieties in general, and you could speak a little bit to that, starting with you, Rogan.
Ooh, definitely in the performance anxiety. Like I've gigged with multiple bands, and I've done like solo classical guitar and classical voice work, and that's one of the, well, I mean, I guess I have sort of that flipped around mind, like I said in sort of the scheduling thing, where like I don't really get nervous getting up there on stage and like performing something, but it comes after. Like it hits me as soon as I'm done. I'm like, oh, what are people going to say about this? And I think, yeah, you two have known me long enough that you know that I'm very awkward taking compliments, because I just don't know how to deal with it. So that's kind of where some of those anxieties come in a performance aspect.
Right, so whether somebody has something nice to say about you at the end or something negative, either way, you're like, what do I say?
Yeah.
That's really sweet. Deyson, what about you? Have you ever dealt with performance anxiety or otherwise?
I mean, maybe a bit when I started performing, but I've been pretty fortunate that I haven't had to deal with performance anxiety too much. Like maybe the first 5 minutes on stage, I'll feel pretty anxious, and then kind of once I'm up there, I'm thinking about the music. I don't tend to dwell too much on feeling stressed out about the performance. I would say as a producer, I have anxiety from the time when I send a mix or like my drum parts to someone, and when they get back to me, I'll like send something to someone, I'll be like, oh man, they're gonna hate it, I'm going to redo it all, like it's terrible. And then the next day I get a message like, hey man, that's really awesome, I really love the mix, and I can kind of relax then. So I don't know if that's performance anxiety, I don't know what you'd call that, but that's probably where I feel more
I call
stressed.
that performance anxiety. It's interesting that you guys are kind of in the same vein there, where it's after is when it's the worst. For me, it's within like the first 10 minutes on stage, and then the energy of the crowd gets you going.
Yeah, I'd say I'm the same on stage. Like the first few minutes on stage is the more nerve-wracking part for me, and then once I'm actually doing it, it kind of fades away.
Yeah, totally. Moving on from there, my next question is, what is your favorite part about this line of work, and why? Deyson, could you answer first, please?
I guess it kind of goes back to what I was saying earlier on about why I like the industry so much, is I love having a vision to work towards. It's the kind of thing that really keeps me going, so being able to always have something that I'm working towards, always have a new thing to work on. I guess that's the other part, is I don't really like doing the same thing too much, so going from every song, every album is going to be different. I like the variety I get by working in this industry.
And Rogan, same question. What is your favorite part about this line of work, and why?
Well, I think tagging off of what Deyson said at the end there too, like I think you can even hear that across just this short 20-minute EP, as I don't like repeating myself either. There's definitely, like, I like a lot of variety in there, but like mostly, yeah, being able to sort of pull yourself and express yourself in all these different ways But then also like more of the technical aspect, being able to like focus in on something and really like put my hands on something technical and complex as like recording and learning the parts that I wrote and yeah, like going back to like the interactions between like all sorts of different people as well, like that has been one of the most what is the word for it, like it's been very like influential on me as a person and as a musician.
Okay, I only have 2 questions left for you guys, so we're nearing the end of our interview here. My next question is the antithesis to the previous question, which is, what is your least favorite part about this line of work and why? Rogan, you can answer first.
Ooh, I think this would probably go back to sort of some of that I guess, yeah, performance anxiety, but also like anticipation of response. Like I very much like I get in my head and I overthink about like sort of the response I'm gonna get for a performance or for like a recording or whatever, and normally I like go through it so many times. And I would say more on the technical side, there are not a whole lot of great live mixing people, like live audio people, so that's always been like a struggle, is like getting the sound guy on the same page as you at a live show, and it's always kind of hard to because you don't have much control over who they pick.
Well, for example, I've been the sound guy, and I don't even know what half the buttons do, so push this one up, see what happens. Deyson, what's your least favorite part about this line of work and why?
I don't know, there's not really much that I dislike about it. I guess being a drummer, I have a bit more to carry around than most other musicians. So I don't know if I always love like spending half an hour loading my drums up into my car, driving to a venue, spending half an hour unloading my drums, and then another 15 minutes setting them up, and then you like play a 20-minute set. Sometimes that rubs me the wrong way. Other than that, I don't know. I love being in this industry and doing what I do. I can't really say much negative about it.
I love how positive all of your answers are. It's so refreshing. Although I don't blame you for not wanting to carry a drum kit around. I don't want to carry a drum kit around either. I hope one day you make enough to hire someone to do it for you.
I mean, that's the one thing kind of being stuck at home has given me, is all of my drumming has been from the comfort of my home, and I never have to move my drum kit around. I can just record everything here. So that's been kind of nice.
I love that you're looking on the bright side. Okay, I have one last question for both of you, and Rogan, you can answer first. It's, what advice do you have for someone looking to follow in your footsteps?
Oh man. Don't get in your head. Well, I guess like get in the right amount in your head, because you have to have some sort of some semblance of analytical like response to what you're doing, to like suss out is this going to work musically, or is it going to fit in the vision. But yeah, you don't want to like really like get in the dumps about it, like just overanalyze everything. Beyond that, I always think back to this interview that Devin Townsend did for DiMarzio, I think. It was called like How to Play Heavy, and after going on like a 15-minute just like off-kilter rant. The moral of the story that he got to at the very end was maybe pick up a trade.
Which you have done, right?
Oh, yes.
You do quite the carpentry-ing.
Mm-hmm.
And then Deyson, same question for you. It's, what advice do you have for somebody looking to follow in your footsteps?
I mean, I'd say the biggest tip I can give anyone is just keep doing stuff, move quickly, put out as much music as you can, get yourself out there as much as you can. Don't worry about everything you do being perfect, because nothing is ever going to feel perfect when you release it. But the important thing is that you release it and then move on to the next thing. So don't spend, 50 hours working on the same mix because you want it to be perfect, because all it's going to happen is you're going to be, you're going to spend 42 more hours working on it than you had to, and you're not going to be any happier with it. The important thing is that you put it out there and you learn from it and you move on to the next thing. Perfection is the enemy of progress, is what I say. So don't worry about perfect, just make sure it does what you intend it to do, and put it out there for people to listen to, and then keep going, keep doing new things.
I really like that. I've always heard, don't let good be the enemy, or don't let perfect be the enemy of good.
Yeah, exactly.
But I like, don't let perfect be the enemy of progress either, or don't let perfect get in the way of progress. That's a really nice way to put that, and I think a great way to wrap up this interview. So thank you both so much for joining me today.